A question I ask all my guests is about thriving. I'd love to know, what is thriving to you?
So thriving to me, I guess I would use that word interchangeably with this notion of flourishing, which is different than happiness, right? Um, I think thriving and flourishing means that kind of all parts of our life are good. We have good health. We have good social networks. We feel we have meaning and purpose in life. And within that way of thinking about it, it means that we can be unhappy or suffer at times, not constantly, not chronically, but that is important to kind of build those connections, to have that vulnerability with others, to build stronger bonds, to find meaning. And so for me, again, flourishing and thriving are a much wider definition than happiness in the way, we this culture, I'm sure you probably have talked about this on the show, we are a culture that is focused on toxic positivity all the time, like that anything bad is to be avoided, but that's important for growth. The trick is to make it not too bad or go on too long, but there can be learning from that. And I think if we think about meaning and purpose in our relationships and our health, and not just, am I feeling really happy right now? We'll have a richer life for it.
I appreciate that perspective. I'd love to ask you personally, since you are such an expert on all these practices, are there certain practices that you engage in that help you particularly thrive or flourish in the way you were just describing?
So the one that I've embraced a lot is this notion of gratitude and microdosing it throughout the day. And, I'm a scientist at heart. I did my experiments. I see the data. And I will say that it has actually, I think, made me a better person for it. Another one that I often do is think about how you would feel 10 years, 20 years on your deathbed about something, because it's so easy to get caught up in the moment, right? People often ask me, I talk about this stuff, am I a person of faith? And if you asked me 15 years ago, I would say no. Now I'd say, I don't know what's out there. I'm looking for something. I haven't found the right home that speaks to me yet, but I am in search of it. In some ways, the show that I do, How God Works, it's as much of a journey for me as it is for everybody else that we take along with us. And one thing that I always say, again, comes from actually a couple of my friends who are rabbis have told me the same thing. When people say, so Dave, are you saying I should be religious? And I say, well, there's this famous saying in the Torah or in the Old Testament, if you're Christian, which is when Moses came down with the teachings from the mountain, and he was giving them to the Israelites, and they were like, I don't exactly understand this. And what they said, and I won't try and pronounce the Hebrew because every time I do, I always mess it up. But the translation is basically, we will do and then we will understand. And so I believe that these practices make life better. And so what I often say to people is try them. And it is sometimes in the doing that the belief comes. And if that happens to you, that's great. But if you're trying to approach it logically, it's not going to get you anywhere, right? There is no logical proof that God does or God does not exist. And so I say, try the wisdom of the practices and see where it leads you.